Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. And my name is James Sowers. And I was actually lucky enough and fortunate enough to be selected as a Forbes Top 50 Angel Investor. And I invest in blockchain, exponential technologies, and a few other sectors. And nowadays, things are changing a little bit with COVID, but I'm still kind of basically looking for some basic things where we have an obsessive founder, where it's their life's work, and the potential of a big market in the future. Not necessarily a big market today, but one in the future that's going to be big. Because a lot of times people say, well, what's the size of the market? And what they really mean is in 3 to 5 to 7 years, or even 10 years nowadays, when there's an exit, what the size of the market's going to be. The size of the market now might be large, but it could be disrupted. And I have learned for the last 4 years of doing a lot of investing in private companies, whether it be blockchain, it became ICOs, or just straight equity in companies, that it's a combination of things that makes a success. The number one thing I've learned is actually the timing, because you can have the best team, the best management, the best execution, but if it's not the right time for the technology, then it's just not going to be a great result yet. The second thing is obviously the team, the management team, the founders, their ability to inspire people for what I call is down for the cause, to basically dedicate everything to the goal. So it becomes more of like a we thing and not a me thing. So the team is more important and the outlying mission. And the third thing, not just the execution, but the speed of execution. Because if you don't get the market first and get to scale, then someone's going to beat you to it. Now, you don't necessarily have to be very first. Sometimes the first guy through the door gets shot, but you have to be the one who removes all the friction to scale and makes the user experience the best.
Mm-hmm. Is it the right time now to invest? The first reaction of people would be, time is difficult, companies are struggling, the environment is uncertain. And people would say, let's delay or defer the investments to when we will have a much better visibility. When is the much better visibility? It could be at the end of summer, it could be at the end of the year, it could be still uncertain, even in the first half of 2021. Now, there are others who would say maybe now the market is attractive because for some amount of investment, you can get a significant share, for example, in this or that company because they are very much struggling and looking for investors to come in and so on. Maybe this is the right moment to go and invest rather than wait when the market is up again. So would you be thinking it's option one or more option two, which is going to be the driving factor?
Well, now is definitely a great opportunity in many companies. A lot of it's going to be specific to the sector and also the amount of cash burn a company has, because now the ability to survive is going to be paramount. So if it's a great company that's going to survive, then if you can get a great valuation or a discount to the last round or get into a deal you couldn't get into normally, then now is a great time to invest. But if it's a company that's really cash intensive and it's going to be a struggle to survive, then it may be better to hold off. Because I look at it this way: in the past, you always wanted to see a company have 12 to 18 months of runway. Now it's probably 18 to 36 months of runway, because the ones that can survive for 3 years are going to have the highest probability of eating the weak, is what I call it. So the ones that survive are going to be able to get all the best talent from the companies that don't survive, and they're going to gain the market share also.
You mentioned blockchain among other technologies. Where do you see, whether it's the blockchain or other digital technologies, for example, where do you see the investment in which technology for which sector in the future after what we just lived? I know that a lot of companies are thinking about running most of their processes remotely, for example, automatically, developing more e-services, whether it's dealing with customers, whether it's dealing with manufacturing plants, for example, and thinking, how we can have the minimal physical intervention of people versus the maximum electronic services developed. So after saying that, where do you see which technology for which sector have a good future?
Right. Well, Speaking to blockchain, the one thing this may actually have done is sped up some of the progress in what I call Web 3 to Web 4. So digital money. So I've always run around saying that paper money is dirty. It spreads the flu and other germs. So with the COVID-19, people aren't going to want to touch money and pass around germs as much. And I know in the United States, it's a lot different than other countries. I've been told that a lot of other countries, paper money is almost never used. People use Samsung Pay, Apple Pay, just hold their phone up. So that's one thing, paying to the phone. And I think that it's going to speed up digital currencies that are sovereign. So China has their sovereign currency that they're testing now. And it's going to force the United States to move quicker, and other countries, just for the fact of not having to touch paper money and spreading germs. And there may be a blockchain issued phone by governments, even with UBI, which I call basic universal crypto, where you would hold up your phone and it would make the digital payments. And it's also going to speed up, I think, the IoT space with supply chain, because another thing we're running into, the supply chains have become very old and legacy. So in supply chain, if you can have smart contracts that execute when each part is done, it'll also basically automate everything. So if a worker can't come into a plant, or there's someone, God forbid, gets sick, you won't necessarily rely on them as much. Once the computers are running it and smart contracts are executing, things will continue to go without having to worry about the human intervention as much. There'll still be human intervention, but it'll basically augment everything we do.
Would the governments be open for an alternative currency, like a cryptocurrency, for example, or would they see it as a risk to handling a dollar or handling a euro or handling other currencies?
Right. I think as long as it's their money that's tokenized, they're open to it. They don't want it to be like Bitcoin is the currency, or Ethereum or Ripple or Stellar, but they'll want it to be like USD coin, but the actual, not USDC or Tether, actually issued by them, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. And in the case of, like, Europe, it would be the European Union. Whoever issues their currency would do it as a euro dollar, but it would be tokenized. So it would be the same dollars they have now, but it would be in a tokenized form where they can use some type of blockchain technology to issue it and even track how it's spent. And the same thing with the supply chain, not only the smart contracts executing the automation, but also documenting, like, supplies, the PPE, all the mess, where did this go? Where did that go? How was the money used? If it's all on a blockchain where it can be disclosed, I think the citizens would be very happy with that too, where you can see, okay, this money was used for this many supplies. This is where it was sent. Here's a QR code, scan it on your phone, and it will show you the exact route.
Mm-hmm. What kind of, companies, I guess you review a number of startup innovative companies in this area. Do you think the quality and the level of these companies is attractive today, which means that once you screen a number of these startups, you say, look, it's the time to invest, let's go invest here? Or you see still a lack of vision here in some of them, or a lack maybe of technologies in some of the startups? Basically, my question is, the market ready today and you have enough startups, just you have that choice, you need to pick up the right one, or you are struggling to find out the right one?
As far as the supply chain thing, I'm still haven't found the right one yet. It seems like the technology is moving towards being good enough, but I haven't found anyone yet who has the team and the execution to actually get it to work 100%. But right now, in the time of COVID, I think there's going to be a lot of innovation, and we're definitely working towards that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the big corporates should work more in an open innovation way, which means they should launch a number of challenges for the new requirements of the market, and then ask the different startups to say, look, give me a solution for that challenge I'm launching. Tell me if you can do it. If you can do it, then let's work. Let's maybe partner. Let's maybe invest in your company. So this crisis probably is pushing the corporates to be much more open to work with the others, rather than everyone having this classical model. I have my products, I manufacture, I develop my products, and then I sell my products. This crisis has probably pushed everyone to very much open and collaborate. Do you share these thoughts?
Share those thoughts, especially with blockchain technologies and IoT and different levels of artificial intelligence. There should definitely be some type of open initiative, kind of the way where there's been small pockets, where there's been different consortiums in blockchain where they work together with Quorum projects, Ethereum Alliance, Mobi for auto identification, and like Amazon and Walmart have done things with different hyperledgers, different tests. Some people are testing Sawtooth. There should definitely be more of an open innovation where really big corporations with a lot of resources and deep pockets should be definitely throwing out these trials or experiments.
Dimitri, just to check, I mean, this is being recorded, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's
okay.
Recording.
Okay, back to my questions then. On the sectors, would you recommend to go more into the healthcare sector? Would you recommend to go more into retail and wholesale and e-commerce? Or other sectors, like what about the energy, for example? Is it still a priority, energy and climate change? Or does it come now second priority, first priority being, get the economy running and get the health issues solved?
Right. So in the short term, healthcare and get the economy running is most paramount, because obviously if everyone's not healthy, then nothing else matters. Your health is the most important thing in life, and then time is second, because obviously someone lives 1,000 years but they're unhealthy, that would be miserable. So you want to have a healthy life and live a long time. Second is getting everybody back to work, because the longer this lasts, the probability is it's going to have more ripple effects, and we don't know what they are on many industries, and cause many unknown consequences. So we got to get everyone healthy, everyone back to work. Mm-hmm. And then in the longer term, the innovation of technology as far as climate change is really important, because if we destroy the world, the climate, then it's not going to be a great place to live. And we're going to have to, go to Mars, like Elon Musk says, or someplace outer space, or space stations like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. What about the virtual technologies? So we are making an event virtually, right? What about the people sitting everyone somewhere and then having augmented reality, virtual reality technologies combined with communication and Zoom or Facebook and so on? What do you think of that?
Yeah, yes, I think it's going to be a change in working where a lot of inefficient things have happened in the past. Like even conferences like this now, almost all of them can be digital and digital interviews. And in the future, there can be an augmented mixed reality type thing where someone could log into an event conference and we would even see ourselves, a virtual room with all the attendees, where if they raise their hand like this, we would see their virtual avatar raising their hand and they could actually interact with us. And also, I think, too, that there'll be some kind of link with e-commerce, or even inside these things, there could be advertising, and there could be things where you could buy something from someone if you saw it, not necessarily an investing conference, but any kind of conference where e-commerce could be done that way. And then also the influencer market that's kind of newer with social media, with the TikToks of the world. Mm-hmm. There's some kind of tie in with that. And that could even tie in eventually, but we're not there yet either. It's something I've been keeping my eye on, where social influencers would have their own kind of token where it was an access token, and even collectibles to the NFT where it'd be one of a kind. Like in the old days when you collected baseball cards, you would be collecting your favorite influencer card, or movie star, or actress, or sports team, and it has its own NFT. The Dodgers actually had one, but it didn't really catch on in the Ethereum blockchain where it was a bobblehead like a year and a half ago or so.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So my last question would be the following. What would be your advices, top 3, top 5 advices to the startups to make them more successful in getting the investment attention and concluding an investment deal with them?
Right. So the best thing, especially now more than ever, is to really have a detailed plan of how you're going to stay on mission to achieve your goals, because we don't know how hard it's going to be to raise capital as time goes through the cycle until the COVID ends. And when I say the COVID ends, even restarting the economy there's going to be lag in things. The way I see it, there's always a lag. So we're hearing things announced now where people just raise these big rounds. A lot of it was probably already in process before the COVID really took effect in a negative way. So you really have to be on your life's work, have a lot of determination and persistence, have a founder market fit. So I always ask myself, does this founder fit this market? Is this really something they want to do, or they just become a startup tourist where there's all these startups now because it's easier now than ever to start a company, but more expensive and harder than ever to scale. So do they really believe in this, and they're going to be dedicated to take it the whole way?
Excellent. Any other advices for them?
Yeah, I think also surrounding yourself with the right team, because the ability to inspire the right team really makes a difference, because everyone doesn't know all the answers in the beginning. But if you get the right team around you and everybody is down for the calls, everyone working together, you come up with things you never even dreamed of. The best ideas don't have to come from the founder. You can have an idea from the lowest level person in the company, but everyone's allowed to put their input in and then use critical thinking and look at the data. The best things will be born in the future. So it's obviously human history. We're living in the greatest time ever, even with this going on. Because this would have happened like 100 years ago. God, who knows? You know, people wouldn't have Zoom. They wouldn't have anything to do. They'd just be sitting in their house. I mean, we have incredible technology today.
Would you more recommend that people who know each other come and work together in a startup mode, or people who did not know each other, who were not friends, but maybe complementing each other with the skills and the experience they have, and found themselves by saying, look, you know, I'm going to found my startup, would you like to join, and so on, and maybe start the adventure with new people who are not particularly your friends. So is it more like starting as a friendship, or it's more starting as skills complementary stuff?
Right. So I think for co-founders, a lot of people say, you know, you definitely need to have a co-founder. That may not necessarily 100% be the case, because it's kind of like a marriage. So, you know, this is going to be 3, 5, 7, 10, sometimes now 15-year journey. So the co-founders should know each other or have some kind of, I guess, relationship. But then when you go out to hire people, it could be people that have the skill set you need. You necessarily don't have to know right away. And the great thing about something like this is that it actually could be an advantage. Some of the best talent now that had the unfortunate time where they lost their job or their company's on hiatus or whatever are going to be willing to work on projects they weren't willing to work on before. So if a startup right now has the runway and has enough money to pay the best talent, they may actually be able to get the best talent even starting as of now.
Mm-hmm. And then would you recommend more to take their time to think about everything, plan everything, even if that requires like 6 months to launch your company, or you know, learn as you work, as you go through it, and even if you have maybe 70%, 80% of your thoughts, your vision, the way you would like to run your business, to start with that, and then, you know, complete the picture or improve as you are running. So basically, everything should be perfect before launching a business, or you can afford to say, okay, I have still some holes or some question marks, or I didn't think about everything, but let me start, and then afterwards I can improve it over time.
Yeah, you need to launch as soon as possible. So once you have the basic foundation, because things are going to change anyway, you're going to learn as you go. And I always say too that if you're not sure about co-founders and you're interested in a project, to go a little bit back to that, you can always have a side project at first for 1 or 2 months, find the people and see how it's like working with them, and then launch. But you definitely need to launch, you know, what they call the MVP in most industries as soon as possible, because it's always an iterative process. Like building an app on a phone, you don't just build the app and it goes away. It's like forever. It's a work in progress. Like even today, the Facebooks and Twitters of the world, the Snapchats, they're always building and changing things and making the experience better for the users.
Mm-hmm. And how to avoid the ideas and the innovations of a startup get simply copied, right? Or maybe stolen, because, so what's your advice about what they should share and not share that much to avoid having, you know, their brain, for example, taken even without further investment. So, you know, they could share it with a lot of people. Some of the people say, okay, but I don't need to invest in this company. So how they should handle that, not disclose that much, but in the same time saying, I have something interesting.
Right. So one thing that I have observed throughout the last 3 or 4 years, there's like tons of people that you never even met or know with the same idea. And one thing I always ask you, has anyone else ever tried this before and failed? Because there's tons of companies that have tried your same idea and the timing wasn't right that failed. So to me, it's all about the execution, the speed of execution, and the first one to really get the scale where they can accelerate the scale. So once you get product market fit, then you throw kind of, you know, gasoline on the fire to scale. So I wouldn't really worry about people stealing your ideas. Now, there may be certain types of tech that is kind of exponential, that takes a lot of capital, where you have to get certain IP. So you might not want to go around showing everyone your code. But even that being said, the majority of things nowadays have an element of open source. So to me, in open source, you know, you might have 90% of your open source out there, and the last 10% could be your secret sauce. So unless it's something in biotechnology that's really IP or certain tech, just don't share that. But it's no issue to share your vision and to share what you're actually doing, because it still has to be executed. Like, different ways, and then once we start getting into it,
Excellent. I think that was really an interesting discussion. These thoughts, I'm confident they will go straight to the brains and to the attention during the event later in May on the 21st and the next days, and then hand it over to Dimitri now.
Great. Can I say one last thing too that I think is important?
Sure.
I think thinking, you know, 5, 10, 15 moves ahead, like a great chess player, is also a great way to think when you're a founder of a startup and with the founding team, because building the relationships for the future means a lot too. So sometimes if you meet a great, I have a chance to get in front of these family office people that take years to get in front of, even though right now you may not get a deal from them, just and they don't invest right away. It takes time. And they want to watch your progress to see that you're able to execute and do what you said you're going to do. So if you have the chance now to even form any relationship with these people or get in front of them, then you should take some part of your time and allocate it to that. Not 100%, obviously, but some part. Because they're going to be able to give you the capital in the future to really throw the fuel on the fire. So if you make a breakthrough, now all of a sudden, wow, you have access.
That's interesting. Being a long-term chess player, I think this is what they should be strategic. They should be thinking about the next step and the next step, and also the what-if scenarios as well. What if something goes into that direction? What if something else goes into the other direction? And be prepared to reduce the risk. And you need that when you're starting a new business. You need it even for the big corporates. So what about the new businesses as well? So this is really interesting. Thank you for bringing that point. Sure,
because it's like what's important now, the focus now is here, but then you also have to allocate some portion of the time. I always say it's like 70, 20, 10. 70% core focus, 20% complementary, and 10% other bets for the future. So obviously you need to be allocating 10% of your thinking time and resources to the future too, because you don't want to like speed to a thing and hit the wall and be like, oh my God, now what do I do? At least you're trying to prepare, and you're going to learn as you go too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this even could be consumed, and you can have that schema where you can see like a tree. If that goes in the wall, then what could be the other branch I would take? And if that doesn't work, what would be the second or third thing I would do? And what's the long-term vision as well? I mean, the big challenge that the leaders have is to do well what they can do today, and in the same time preparing the future pipeline, preparing the future products, preparing the future vision, for example. It's very difficult to have people who are good in both, good in running the operations, at the same time leave some space in the brain for thinking for the mid and longer term.
Exactly. As you go along, I always say, you know, figure out what you're best at, what you love to do, and then you can bring on the team the things to complement you and also the things to strengthen your weaknesses. The things you're not good at, the things you don't like to do, you can bring on those people. But what you think they are now, you don't know until you really get into it.
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you. I think, Dimitri, we can close. I enjoyed the conversation. I think this recording will be very interesting for a lot of people. Thank you, James. Thank you. Bye-bye. We can close. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.